President lays out the program. And as you know, we are in the middle of a debilitating crisis. The President will also speak to the crisis facing the people of Zimbabwe in the MDC perspective on that crisis. Credit to that, the President has also been going around the country, meeting the people. He was in Bulawayo, he was in Harare. Some of the meetings were taking place in the public glares, and some of them, of course, were taking place under the rug. Deliberately so. We're underplaying some of the President's engagements. As you know, one of the basic rules in political communication is that when your enemy is committing suicide, you don't want to steal the thunder from them. So deliberately we've been underplaying our activities, but the President will walk us through what the party has been doing and our take on the crisis in the country. Just to showcase the crisis in the country, when we've got ministers of government and leaders of the political group engaging in a public spate, not on policy solutions to the crisis facing the people, but accusing each other of who was selling underwear and petticoats during the war, then you know that the country is enmeshed in an unnecessary sanction. But anyway, without much further ado, I'll ask the party spokesperson to introduce the President and invite him to come and share his views with us.
Thank you very much, Mofu. Thank you, Luke. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Compliments of the season. As Luke has already indicated, this day is a very important morning for Zimbabwe, for everyone in Zimbabwe, for you in particular as the press corps. I will not waste any more of your time. I will call upon President of the Movement for Democratic Change, none other than Dr. Morgan Richard Tsvangirai, to give you his remarks. President,
thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I understand I'm supposed to be in Asmara. This is what I have collected. That in Eritrea, men are now being forced to marry 2-3 wives because of shortage of men. And that Tsvangirai and Zuma are outpacing each other to go to Asmara to go and get women. Well, I'm here in Zimbabwe with the very serious crisis that we face. Ladies and gentlemen, we meet amid a very serious national crisis. Now worse than what it was a month ago when I issued my end of year statement. Since then, things have gotten worse, as exemplified by the promised bonus of civil servants, still to be paid, thank goodness. Even if that bonus is going to be spread over a couple of months, at least there is a commitment to pay. In the countryside, poverty levels have worsened, people have no money in their pockets, a situation exacerbated by food shortages that are even worse following yet another big farming season. As a region and as a country, we are bearing the brand of climate change, a serious issue that needs attention at policy level, especially now as the entire Southern region faces a burgeoning food crisis. Millions of our citizens, the government has to import 1.8 million tons. And as I witnessed when I went to Masvingo, I think it's a greater testimony that the southern regions, the crops are right off. Some who are trying to pretend to replant, I don't think they will be successful. So yes, we are facing a very serious national crisis as a result of climate change. But amid this looming starvation, coupled with an economy on the ropes, no one is paying attention to this national crisis. There is no government response, as ZANU is too preoccupied on the succession issue of President Mugabe. We in the MDC have no intention to join in their debate. As the man declared at the recent AU summit that he will die in office. So we all know that instead of fighting for succession, let's wait until he dies. That's what he said. I'm going to die in office. It's no longer a secret. It's no longer speculation. He has made a declaratory order. I remember during the last election in 2018, so sorry, I'm going to divert a bit. I was with Obasanjo the night before the election, and we were waiting for our appointment at State House. And Obasanjo told me, you know, at one point I thought people were trying to exaggerate. I am now convinced that President Mugabe wants to die in office. So this was not just a testimony by one of the former heads of state, but he actually testified to the fact that he didn't think that Mugabe was going to leave office, and he's going to, but that he's going to die in office. So he has confirmed that indeed Zimbabweans must wait until he dies. Indeed, the current state of the nation resembles a national funeral. We are currently battling to meet our pledge to the multilateral financiers to save billions of our external debt by April. There is a 95% unemployment in the country. Civil servants are on an age on a monthly basis. I've been meeting Zimbabweans across the length and breadth of this country. The collapse of basic services is very evident. Contrary to the old days of GNU and MDC, helped to sustain the health sector, the education sector. Now, the hospitals cannot even supply the basic medicines. This is a sad indictment of the sanity of failure. It is now a matter of public record that the country's economy is in turmoil. There is no foreign direct investment. I see that mega deals have now been confirmed that they're actually mega failures with China, because they cannot invest where they know insurance. And in today's paper, someone is writing about the danger to the so-called mega deals becoming very evident. I said at the time last year on personal reflections, in which I described the country as having been turned into a huge mall of vendor. In other words, the level of informalization is evident of a collapsing economy. People are just struggling to survive, and that's what we have to deal with. We as political parties have joined hands in demand for elections that are credible, that are free from interference. And the demand for a credible election has now become something that we have rallied around everyone so that those reforms can be achieved. As our party, our decision not to participate in election until the implementation of far-reaching reforms has resulted in a fruitful debate in the country. That ZEC itself has acceded to the biometric voters law, and the debate around involvement of the United Nations in the running of the elections are all issues on the forefront of our national debate. Because we in the MDC have taken against participation as a mere rituals disguised as elections. We are not boycotting elections, but we are demanding that elections must be free and fair, and that reforms are a non-negotiable issue. We note, of course, with concern, the statements by the Vice President Mnangagwa that they are not interested in inviting the UN observers, that they will be selective on who should come and observe our election. Now, this is a position which has been taken by the executive. But ZEC is supposed to be an independent body. The question and the critical question is, what is ZEC going to do to protect its integrity and its independence against executive interference in the running of elections? where does it put ZEC's independence in terms of its credibility? Mnangagwa's statements confirm that he is a hardliner, that he has always been, and not the reformist or the pragmatist that some in the diplomatic community have begun to think he is. I was with one of the ambassadors, and they were talking about Mnangagwa being a pragmatist. I said, pragmatist as far as the other issues are concerned, but a hardliner as far as the question of governance and democracy are concerned. Now, we in the MDC, of course, we want to urge ZEC to reassert its independence and to make sure that the next elections are conducted in a free and fair manner. On implementation of the Constitution, our government is not only struggling to meet its basic obligations, but has abandoned all pretense at democratic governance. Chief among its many crimes is the failure to realign the country's laws to the new Constitution, crafted and overwhelmingly endorsed by the people of Zimbabwe in May 2018 at the referendum. In that Constitution, among many other progressive provisions, Zimbabwe said they wanted a devolution, but more than 2 years after the election, that revolutionary provision has not in any way been implemented, as the governance system remains highly centralized. What the ZANU-PF government has done instead is to appoint ministers of provincial affairs. Even the two metropolitan provinces of Harare and Bulawayo, where they have lost this money. That the new constitution is one of our major success stories as a democratic movement in Zimbabwe, but the government is developing frozen cold feet in living true to the wishes and aspirations of citizens as expressed in that charter. Ours is a government that remains contemptuous of any agreement with anyone, including with its own people. I also wish to advise the current demolitions that have taken place in people's homes in Harare. This is not new. This government embarked on Murabatsina 1 some years back. Now they are on Murabatsina 2, which is a diabolical and a gross violation of human rights. The people must know that it is government that is demolishing people's homes. We have directed our councils not to destroy people's homes, but to ensure that those with the destroyed homes are relocated to properly planned settlements under the direct authority of an elected local authority council. Most of these settlements now being demolished were unplanned dwellings encouraged by ZANU-PF itself, which the same government is now destroying. On our part, we have instructed our councils to make sure that they must do a humane thing, which is to relocate these stranded homeless people to properly sanctioned areas. Now, one of the things I must emphasize here is that you have a minister of local government who is the political commissar of ZANU-PF, who is interfering with the independence as is the law by the Constitution, that councils shall run local authorities without interference. But what have we seen? We have seen this minister going to Gweru to try to dissolve the whole council, lost in a court of law, and became defiant against the ruling of the court that he has no power to interfere in the running of council. He has gone to Kumtare, started dealing with the staff in the council, which is a responsibility of council. Where is this man's power or legal authority going to end? We can only suspect that the whole intention is to use his political commissariat work to undermine the independence, as is the law, the independence of local authorities. We will continue to challenge him, even if it means taking him to the Constitutional Court. And I think we have a very strong case that this minister is acting outside the law. The challenge for the region and the international community, for the region, Africa and the broader international community, the immediate challenge is the pending humanitarian crisis that needs to be addressed. This country alone will not be able to sufficiently mobilize adequate food stocks required itself a sad indictment on the much vaunted land reform program that has not been underpinned by productivity. Related to this is the partisan distribution of food, another very burning issue that we have to confront. We in the MDC have had our supporters being denied food handouts in most parts of the country because of their political affiliation. In parts of Manicaland, our people have had to storm a GMB depot and they bravely demand that food handouts be given in a non-partisan manner. There is indeed going to be huge national demand for transparent and non-partisan distribution of food by our supporters in parts of the country. If ZANU-PF continue to hand out food on a partisan basis, then we will tell our people to demand food and to access that food, even if it means to be arrested for demanding food. Well, that may appear as if I'm trying to incite lawlessness, but the question is that how does a government or anyone, any right-thinking person, think that you can distribute food on a partisan basis and allow people to starve without even requesting it? In fact, it's lawful to demand food because no one says people should die because when food is available. Beyond the deceptive veneer of stable country is a monumental crisis of multiple proportion that could implode anytime. Due to this government culture of repression and its unique capacity to successfully prevent people from expressing themselves, it will be folly for Africa and the world at large to mistake people's induced silence as a sign of stability in the country. What the world needs to appreciate is that when Zimbabweans eventually express themselves, as they will do so in no distant future, that implosion would engulf the whole region. The current forced peace is just a calm before the storm. Given the worsening situation, it is only a matter of time before things come to a head, and the international community should definitely take heed of that. Until very recently, Mugabe was the chairperson of the African Union in SADC. It appears some in Africa and the broader international community had allowed this occupation of those rotational positions to cloud them from making an objective and a rational judgment regarding the situation in Zimbabwe. Only last week, he was breathing fire and brimstone on the need to reform the United Nations Security Council. Yes, Mr. President, we agree that the United Nations must be democratized. But charity begins at home. There must also be reform in Zimbabwe, in every aspect of our lives. This country must also be democratized so that no one disappears without trace. We continue to call for the government to come clean on the fate of Zaman. We will not rest until Zamara's fate is known, not only to his family, but to the rest of us, because we believe it is our right to protect citizens. I'm aware that the EU has decided to re-engage Zimbabwe And I know that the people of Zimbabwe stand to benefit from any form of re-engagement. But I wish to restate our position that the international community must not just re-engage without a framework. They must insist on implementation of agreed electoral reforms and conditions and embracing of universal acceptable standards by the authorities here in Harare. The world must insist on the need to respect the rule of law and the conditions sanctioned by SADC to ensure that the next election is vaccinated against periodic mischief that has blighted the credibility of all our elections. Any re-engagement must be accompanied by a stubborn insistence on universally accepted standards that ensure the guarantee of full freedoms and enfranchisement of ordinary citizens. The challenge to the democratic movement. I do not wish only to pose challenges to the world without giving the same challenges to us as the opposition parties and the broad democratic movement. Petty squabbles, hatred of fellow opposition personalities must not cloud us from the patriotic responsibility to confront Zambia and to chart a new Zimbabwe together. Collectively, we must outgrow the selfish mindset of thinking that we can go it alone. We all need each other as a broad family of united, patriotic Zimbabweans if we are to bring a new democratic dispensation, which are definitely a scam. We definitely need each other, and that is why my party that I lead took a resolution at Congress that we will work with like-minded people, institutions to confront the beast. In the same vein, I wish to commend other political parties who have joined us, not joined us, but who have agreed to work together to achieve NERA, which is the National Election Reform Agenda, to campaign for those reforms and to ensure that come 2018, we have some modicum of rational electoral playing field. And as a broad democratic movement, we have many points of convergence. And it behoves us to harp on those areas. And it is clear the only game changer ahead of next election is for us in the democratic movement to work together and reignite and re-energize the floundering confidence of the people of Zimbabwe that change we seek will indeed be achieved in the very near future. We owe it to history to seize this moment to work for our country. I remain encouraged by the spirit of togetherness that is gathering momentum amongst us. And I want to boldly declare to the people that beneath this current facade, we are surely and definitely finding each other. I want to conclude my remarks by saying it is clear that the country needs to open a new leaf. We cannot continue like this, and it is inevitable that something has to give. We in the democratic movement have no option but to come together, and I have said I'm encouraged by the fact that we seem to be finding each other and regrouping. That's very important. To our colleagues in ZANU-PF, I reiterate the proposal I've always given them. It will be in their best interest if they agree to dialogue of the broad section of our society to find solution to the national crisis that we all confront. Our experience is that we need more than an elite conversation of political parties. We need a conversation of Zimbabwe, a conversation that will include business, labor, and informal sector and other stakeholders, interest groups who are keen to find a lasting solution. Indeed, once beaten, twice shy. The national conversation should not be premised on the intention of forming another elite inclusive government, but on hammering a way out of the crisis of legitimacy that we have. We need to agree on the framework for a truly free and credible election. Only then can we begin to resolve the country's crisis. In the past few weeks, I've been around the country, meeting ordinary people, whose patience and whose anxieties are growing by the day. I feel emboldened and encouraged by the outstanding faith that ordinary person has in the People's Project that was started by the MDC in 1999. And indeed, the distant past that Zimbabweans can only remember with nostalgia is the period of the GNU. It was happening during my interactions with the people in the past month to know that apart from their poverty and suffering, they still retain unceasing faith in the MDC. Indeed, they are retaining certain commitment that a new Zimbabwe is certainly beckoning. And I have no doubt in my mind, as I have gone around saying, that the faith of the people in change will not be affected by the fact that ZANU-PF has failed, but we will be encouraged by the fact that at least beyond this crisis, there is somebody who has a solution to the crisis that we face. And that somebody is the MDC. I thank you.
Thank you, President. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I should start. Okay. Mr. President, I heard you saying quite a number of things, like informal sector, the issue of police inconsistency, and other issues to do with food security, productivity, and reforms and other things. What exactly is your position as a party? What approach are you going to take so that some of these issues, because in the past you have been talking about the issue of dialogue, you have been talking about the issues of mass protests, you have been talking about quite a number of things, but it seems the government, or ZANU-PF itself, has not been shaken by some of these approaches or the press conference. What other means or other routes are you going to apply as a party so that at least the current regime will be able to at least shake up, so that at least you can tell most people are suffering and they are looking at you as leaders. What is the position now? Should it be more radical or should it be a confrontational game? What exactly is the position of the party?
The issue is what is the MDC going to do with this crisis? Today is the 5th of February 2016. Yes. And the people are suffering. And the question is, what are you doing as a party to maybe push the government to be on the right path? That is the most serious question.
Did say President Mugabe said you won't leave office if he's taken by God. What is the point then for the FTC and the opposition to participate in elections when we very well know that it's not going anywhere?
Okay, when a country is confronted with a very serious crisis as we face, the only solution out of that crisis is for patriots across the political divide to discuss, to converse, to dialogue, in order to find a peaceful solution to the crisis. If you don't find a peaceful solution, then you are saying that chaos and the collapse should prevail. We don't want chaos. We want a peaceful solution. And in fact, that has been our value from the formation of the MDC. That we are a democratic movement seeking democratic change, even against the dictatorship who is entrenched, to find a solution using democratic means. In 16 years, we have never deviated from that principle. We are not seeking any confrontation with anyone, but we will continue to pursue our value system, which is to have democratic elections as a means of change of government. You are saying, what are you doing to have that change? We are a political party. We are not in government. We cannot be responsible for the omissions of ZANU-PF, which is in government. What we can tell Zimbabweans is that even our experience in the GNU has demonstrated that the MDC can find solutions to the country, even at the West Point. We are saying now that the current crisis we face, there are solutions to it. The MDC is not preoccupied with what ZANU-PF has failed. We are prepared. We are now planning as to what are the solutions to the collapsing economy. What are the solutions to the myriad of serious social crises that we all face in our various lives? We have a plan to rescue this country. And as an opposition party, because we are not in government, we can only tell Zimbabweans that we have a plan to rescue this country out of this climate crisis. We are not responsible as a government because we are opposition. We can only organize ourselves when the people of Zimbabwe give us that mandate. Then we can implement what are the solutions, what the solutions are to the current crisis. Then there is a question of why participate? If Mugabe says he's not going nowhere, he's going to die in office, the question is, when is he going to die? Suppose he dies tomorrow. Is that question still relevant? Do you know that he's going to reach the next election while he's still alive? Even if he is alive. The question of participating in an election or otherwise is not based on whether he's alive or not. It is based on the question of whether conditions for elections are free and fair. That's how I understand. Well, I don't believe it's fair to wish anyone to die. Because some of you think that when Mugabe dies, the problem will go away. It is the system that has been created, that has created this debilitating effect on the people. And to be honest, Mugabe or no Mugabe, the system has entrenched itself, and that's what we need to transform. If you don't transform it, you're going to more of the same. Whether if the system is the same tentacles, the same governance culture, it means the people of Zimbabwe have not been liberated. And the MDC has always been fighting for a transformation of the governance culture. We, of course, have to mobilize people. We have to engage people. Because at the end of the day, it's the people of Zimbabwe who will determine the destiny of this country. But there is no one who is going to take any action unless they are mobilized, unless they are conscientized, unless they are confronted with the situation that to continue to be docile while the country is collapsing is not the best solution. So you need a process of conscientizing people, a process of mobilizing people, a process of expression by the people. I think we will draw the attention of the regime and its defendant. That defiance is not a solution to people. That you can continue to bury your head in the sand, but one day you will be confronting the people when people are angry. Because a hungry person is an angry person. Yes.
Thank you very much, President. We'll take...
Me?
Yes.
Okay. So you've been traveling around the country, meeting supporters and ordinary Zimbabweans. They say about various problems that the country is going through, and what are their expectations from the MDC?
Yes.
It seems we are about solution before those polls are conducted. And recently we read that was that at your instigation?
Is very, it can be expressed by the fact that the people are frustrated. The people are in a helpless situation. The people expect that perhaps the best solution would be for another GNU. Because to them, it's about finding a solution to the crisis. They just want a solution. They want the political leaders across the political divide to come with a solution. You can expect that people who are not able to send their children to school, people who are living on less than $1 a month, people who are unemployed, the young people who are just educated but unemployed, the helplessness is very, very evident. But the good is also expected that a solution will be found. It is the duty of leaders to be dealers in hope. That if we have found a solution at the depth of our crisis last time, why can't we just find another opportunity to find a solution to the crisis? So I would say, as a leader, when you confront people who have no hope, it actually burdens you. It becomes a national burden. How do you respond to people who have no food, who are poor, who have no jobs? And it's no use talking about ZANU-PF failures because they know. They know ZANU-PF is failed. So their only hope is, can you provide an alternative to this crisis that we are facing? Even if it means we have to act, let's do so. And I think that that is in line with the democratic principles of public expression. Coalition politics. It's 2 years to the next election. Coalitions are formed by political parties as institutions. So far, the media has had this habit of referencing to People First. I don't know whether that party has been formed. It may be an idea yet to find fruition, but as far as we are concerned, there's no such party. They talk about it. So at individual level, people have their own initiative. They talk across the political divide, they converse, they look at possibilities. But certainly, there are no coalition talks that I'm aware of. People wish that the opposition to coalesce, work together. We also believe that's the best way. That's why I've called for the opposition to regroup. When the time comes, when the elections time comes, perhaps it will dawn on all political parties to find some coalition platform to discuss about it. At the moment, there is no coalition talks. Of course, I wish to say that we will not fight any colleague in the opposition, because we believe that it's time that the opposition works together as a team, that there's need for unity. But let's hope that as we work together towards fighting for reforms under NERA, it will be a platform under which people would begin to see the need to work together. What a beauty it will be to have two parties going to an election. ZANU-PF and the rest of us. Then people will have a choice, a credible choice. And I've no doubt it will be an opportunity to have that desire for change to be achieved. Anything else?
Thank you very much, President. Ladies and gentlemen, any more questions? I'm sure you're so happy you don't want to ask any questions. Let me take this. Could you speak up if you do?
I'm saying as you mentioned, ZANU-PF is in crisis, and internal and external. Is a main opposition party. People ask me, why are you not taking crisis?
You know, yes,
Maybe a second question.
let me start with that one. Why not exploiting ZANU-PF? That's why we are working together under NERA for reform. That's why we are regrouping as opposition parties. That's why we are demanding implementation of the Constitution. Those are signs of exploiting a division in ZANU-PF. You can't exploit any other than the fact that people must unite, must regroup. Right? And I'm sure everyone realizes that people were accusing us of being big brother and all that. We don't consider that. We want to make sure that everyone works together and exploit these irreconcilable differences in ZANU-PF. Now, let me answer you. I think it's foolhardy. It's foolhardy to think that the capacity of the MDC is dependent on individual, intellectual or otherwise capacity. Who said that the MDC has run out of intellectual power? Just because one person is left, therefore they have lost the intellectual power. Who said that? Do you think that we are dumb fools ourselves? To lead such a massive movement, to be led by idiots. Huh? This is, I don't know how to describe it, but tell you what, the MDC has not run out of manpower. So this business of saying they need us more than them, it's not even a basis upon which it should be considered. And to go around boasting about intellectual power, wait, Mafume.
No comment.
Give me a break. But even in spite of that very expressed superiority complex, we are very magnanimous. We will work with Mangoma, we will work with the BET, not on the basis of the so-called intellectual prowess, but on the basis that we need to unite the people of Zimbabwe. That is if they have any followers. Then we can talk about it. But to us, it's not even a basis of mutuality. It's not even a basis of discussion. We measure my IQs around. We should start measuring IQs around. Politics is about influence. Politics, leadership is about influence. It's about followers. That's what politics is all about. Show us how many people are behind you, who believe in you. then we can begin to talk. But anyway, in spite of that, we will definitely leave room for discussion. But certainly, I must emphasize, fragmentation is not the solution. Unity is the issue.
Thank you very much, President. Very good questions. Equally brilliant answer. When you want to ask another question?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Something that has been a concern, and we are dealing with it. I've said at all platforms in the standing committee, we had an executive yesterday, that the party cannot afford to internally focus. We need to focus on the issue of 2016. In fact, I outlined 9 cardinals. I said, these are the cardinals we have to focus on. Organizationally, preparing for elections, uniting the people, be clear about what you are going to do, inheriting such a collapsed economy. So, yes, there could be conclusions that the people are internally focused, but you know, it's a dying phase. Congress sentiment will always be a dying phase. Congress. The rest of the people are saying, Tuna Visa Sahani. That's where our focus will be. And not Tuna Visa, you too, Tuna Visa. No. Let's focus. The party must focus. The party must prepare for the next elections. The party must be ready to govern. Those are the challenges that we face. And I'm sure that as you refocus people to those kind of agenda, you will find that some other issues becomes peripheral. They are not issues. Okay, thank you very much.
President. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good Friday, good weekend.